Morning, how you doing? Right, well this week I'm up on holiday and I'm up on holiday in the Cairngorms, and actually this is not a wildlife photography holiday at all, it's a family holiday. We've come away just to get away from it for a week really, and booked this last minute, so that does cause loads of problems if you're a wildlife or landscape photographer. Normally, if you've got a long period of time before you book a holiday, you're looking to see what potential you've got for stuff up there. You might be looking at Google Earth if you're a landscape photographer to see what areas look particularly nice to go and do some photography in. If you're a wildlife photographer, you might be looking at just searching the area and seeing what wildlife's local to that area. Because it's a last minute thing and because it's a family holiday, I'm not here to do wildlife photography, although obviously I am. So what I try and do when I'm away on a family holiday is try and fit my photography around the stuff we're doing as a family, and that can sometimes be quite difficult. I have to say it's not so bad at this time of year because we're in July, the mornings are still starting really early, so I think sun up is just after 5 o'clock sunrise. So what it means is what I try and do is get out as the sun comes up. So 5 o'clock this morning out, I'll be back for 9 o'clock as anybody else is getting up, so that's not a particular problem. What I also try and do is try and get as much information as I can quickly, and I'll show you something else that I've been working on since we got up here actually. Just something to see whether, it doesn't always work, but with a bit of local information, you may be able to target in on something else as well. So I'll talk to you about that later. I'm out with Leia this morning. We got up at 5, and excuse the midges. They actually haven't been bad so far, but they're a particular pain, especially as I'm standing on a raised walkway over a bit of a bog. But we did notice when we did an evening walk that there's some roe deer down in this area. So Leia's just doing a little bit of a scout out to see whether we can hook up with any this morning, and that's where we're going to start this morning anyway. She's actually beckoning me over, so I think she's found some, and I'm ready to move anyway with these midges. They're absolutely driving me crazy. I'll catch up with you in a bit. I'm going to see what Leia's found, and we'll see what we can get this morning on this impromptu family holiday vlog. We've got a roe deer female and 2 youngsters, I think, down in the just on this little bit of a banking that raises up in front of us out of this bog. So we're just taking a few images, and I've already taken a little bit of film. We've noticed quite a few in here over the last few days, and it seems to be just like a holding area where there's quite a few females with youngsters, and it's probably because there's a meandering river that runs around the outside of this bog, and there are big sections that obviously nobody gets into, so it's quite a safe environment. So I've got a feeling what happens is that the roe deer females probably leave the young down in the long grass in here during the day for long periods, and then head off to feed in other areas before coming back. So we're not going any further than the edge of the river because we don't want to get in there and disturb anything, but we have got quite a few nice shots around this area. So we took a couple the other day as well. So what I'll do, I'll stick those images up now, and we'll go off and try something else. Right, as you can see, I've retreated up to the woodland now. What I was saying, and one of the things that are problems with doing a holiday where you sort of go last minute, you don't have all the information that if you've booked 6 months in advance, you can start to gather information for wildlife photography about what's in the area. You can do Google searches. You know, you can often find there's a local wildlife group, or at least the local birding group will give you a good indication about what's been seen where. So when you come on a last minute thing, you don't really get the opportunity to do any of that. Also, when I normally book a holiday, or when we normally book a holiday, we like to go somewhere quite remote. Now, what that gives you is straight away a mine of information, because generally if a holiday cottage is remote, a lot of the owners will put on their wildlife information on the description. They'll say what's been seen in the area. We don't have that this time because we're stopping in the middle of a little town village, and this is a more general property for probably a lot of people who are following things like the Whiskey Trail. So there's probably a lot more people book this cottage who drive to different things in the Cairngorms rather than doing a lot of walking like we do. So you don't have that information on the description. What you also don't have, and this is something that's really useful to look at once you get to your cottage, is the visitor's book. Normally when we stop in a holiday cottage, the visitor's book has got loads and loads of entries where people have said what they've seen and where they've seen it. You know, sometimes you get entries like, I don't know, pine martens coming in regularly seen in the garden. They might say things like, if you're on the coast, they might say, you know, from the front window we've seen bottlenose dolphins or seals or whatever. So you immediately get an indication of potentially what you've got in the area to take some images of. As I say, because we're in this cottage which is not set up for that, we don't have that information. So when we first got up here, the first thing we did, we found that there was a little visitors centre, and that was set up in a little bit of woodland like this, or on the edge of it, with a children's play area, so, you know, swings and things. And we went up and spoke to them, and they said, oh yeah, we feed the red squirrels. And they'd got a nut feeder up, and we could see that they were feeding red squirrels. They come across quite regularly. So I'm thinking, right, great. Now, what I didn't want to do was set up a feed station or take pictures, or wait up near the visitor centre and take pictures of squirrels on feeders. But what that meant was I knew they were in the area. So what I did is I've set up a number of feed stations. Now, this wood here is a little bit further away. This is at the other end of the village, but we did a bit of a recce down here, and what we found was a lot of these. So I don't know whether you can see that. Bring it close to you. It gets it in focus. There. There. Yes, I don't know whether you can see these. These are cones, pine cones that have been completely stripped by red squirrels. And what you find is that where you're in a pine forest, it has to be a pine forest because that's what red squirrels like to live in. Where they've cut the trees down, you'll often find that there's loads of these on top of the stumps, where they've basically come down and eaten all the seeds out of them. So what we did is we came down and put some peanuts on top of a few of these stumps that we'd found. Now I have to say, down this end of the village, although we've seen them up high in the trees, they've not come down and not taken any of the nuts down here. And we're getting towards, we've probably got about 3 days left up here now, so it's looking a little bit bleak that it's not going to happen. However, up near the visitors centre, we put another couple of feed stations up there, and one of them has definitely had all the peanuts taken by a squirrel. We know that because I dropped some down the crack on the side of this stump, and all the bark's been ripped away to get these peanuts. So there's very little else that would do that. So we're pretty sure that a red squirrel's come down to there. So we'll put some more peanuts up there, and hopefully I might be able to get some shots of those before the end of the holiday. But that's a bit of a long shot. But that, you know, that's something that's quite easy to do. It's took me very little time. Every time I'm out walking the dog, I'll just check that. That's the feed station to make sure there's still nuts there. I'm focusing in on that one now, so hopefully, as I say, with fingers crossed, we might be able to get up there and get some pictures, but you just never know. Right, we're just making our way back now, but I've had a little stop off in an area because this is an area, again, more to the side of where this sort of roe deer nursery is, in this long grass. There's lots of different grasses here, sedge, marsh grass, a lot of meadow sweet as well. But I don't know whether you can pick up on this microphone, there are quite a few warblers around. I think probably sedge warbler. I'm going to try and get some images of those in a minute. But it's been really, really good for bird life, just general bird life in the area. There is actually a hide just outside the village that's set up for waders. And there's quite a few sort of lapwing, and we did see some snipe the other day around there. I think we're catching them a little bit late in the season. If we'd have been a couple of months earlier, you'd have probably got them sniping things on top of the fence posts that are around this marshy area, but unfortunately I think we've missed that period of time. But one of the things I would say is, you know, if you're always carrying your camera, you've always got that chance of getting a shot, especially of birds. A really good area for birds up here. Not seen anything particularly unusual, but it's just been nice to get reasonably close to quite a few birds and seeing them in actually quite a different environment. So I'm going to have a go, try and get some pictures of this sedge warbler. And what I'll do at the end of this vlog is I'll stick those images up. I'll also stick any other bird images that I've taken while we've been up here. And then, fingers crossed, you never know, we might get some squirrel images, but that's not come to fruition yet. I'm still working on that, but I'm going to go and check those peanuts that I put out up near the visitor centre when I've left here. Right, I suspect you can see that I'm not actually in the Cairngorms National Park at the minute. We've just had a little bit of a drive out today to a place called, I think it's Findhorn Beach, which is on the, I do believe, the Moray Firth. And we've just really come for a bit of a walk, but I do know from doing a little bit of research that they do get seals and dolphins here, so obviously bought the camera with me just in case. I've already seen a couple of heads bobbing about, so hopefully we're just going to sit down for a while and just watch the surf and see if we can get some images. I don't think they're going to be anything spectacular, but it would just be nice to get some seal pictures. I think last time we came up to Scotland we really struggled to see any, so yeah, it would be nice to get at least one shot. Anyway, I'm going to get off and see if I can get a couple of images, and if I have, I'll stick them up now, and I'll catch you a little bit later on. Right, I think my time for this morning is more or less up. The sun's now coming out quite brightly, and we've got plans for the rest of the day, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'll stick any images that I haven't shown you up at the end of the video, all the bird images that I've taken, and I'll also, fingers crossed, have some of those squirrel images, but if not, it was worth a try, and you know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I'll see you next time for another one. Please give the video a thumbs up, it really does help the channel grow. See you next time.